It's uplifting and it's exciting and you feel strong and powerful and capable. And for me, there was just always that kind of tactile ability, but it wasn't always good. And it's something you just have to work at, and the more you work at it, you get better. Honestly, whenever I would see some type of public artwork, I would always think that I'm not the artist for that. I'm not good enough. I'm an okay artist. I'm pretty decent, but I'm not that kind of artist. You know, I could never do something like that. So when it came up, I thought, well, why can't I be that kind of artist? I push my kids every day and I tell them, you can do these things and you have power and you have the talent. You never know if you don't try. And since I lost my mom, my kind of goal is to live your life with as few regrets as possible. So I did it too. I told them about this project and I said, I'll give you extra credit if you do it. I'll give you even more extra credit if you get picked. And they said, well, where's yours? Let me show you.
We are convening our meeting at 6 o'clock. This is the March 28th, 2023 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting in the City of Maricopa, Arizona. Calling the meeting to order, we are first going to have our invocation that will be delivered by Jim Irving and our Pledge of Allegiance to the flag by James Singleton. Would all rise, please?
With us tonight as we go about our business, just guide us, keep us focused, and just let us show the understanding and joy and love toward each other as we go about our deliberations. We ask all this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, James. Call to the public. I'm sorry.
Each other.
I got the word call in there right anyway. Roll call.
Commissioner Juarez. Commissioner Singleton.
Here.
Commissioner Robertson. Chair Yocum. Oh, do I keep going? Sorry. Commissioner Irving. Here. Commissioner LaFalle. Commissioner Hughes. Chair Yocum, we have a quorum.
Here. Thank you.
Sorry.
Now let's try the call to the public. If you wish to speak, please complete a speaker card and submit it to the chairman prior to the start of the meeting. The procedures to follow if you address the commission are: Commission requests that you express your ideas in 5 minutes or less and refrain from any personal attacks or derogatory comments about any city employee, a fellow citizen, or anyone else, whether in the audience or not. The chairman will limit discussion whenever he deems such an action appropriate to the proper conduct of the meeting. Minutes. Has everybody had the occasion to take a look at the minutes?
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have moved to accept the minutes, and do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have any discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Our regular agenda, item 5.1, GPA 23-01. This is a public hearing. The Planning and Zoning Commission shall discuss and take action on a request for a minor general plan amendment on approximately 2.59 acres, effectively changing the future land use designation from medium-density residential, MDR, to employment, E. The site is generally located at the southwest corner of West Honeycutt Avenue and North Maricopa Road in the City of Maricopa, and this is for discussion and action. We are going to have a presentation by staff, applicant.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Derek Shearer, planner with the Planning Division and Development Services. I'm here to present the next item on the agenda. I have made a presentation. However, the presentation combines this request, GPA 23-01, the minor general plan amendment, and also the next item on the agenda, the rezone, zone 23-01, a rezone for Maricopa Station. If I can get this to start working. Here we go. Agenda items 5.1 and 5.2 are city-initiated rezone and minor general plan amendment for the Maricopa Station area. Minor general plan amendment, GPA 23-01, and zone change request 23-01. The applicant for the rezone is the City of Maricopa on behalf of the property owners, City of Maricopa, Desert Cedars Equities LLC, trustees of the First Baptist Church of Maricopa, 20X Properties LLC, Maricopa Investments LLC, and EHC Maricopa LP. The proposed rezone area is northeast, southeast, northwest, and southwest corners of North John Wayne Parkway and West Honeycutt Avenue, as shown in the vicinity map right there. The project area is approximately 63 acres in total. The proposal, the minor general plan amendment, is to change the future land use map for one parcel. If you see on the left-hand side of the vicinity map where it says GC and it's kind of surrounded by that green color, that one property for the rezone application needs a minor general plan amendment. All the other properties in the proposed rezone fall within a land use category that permits the proposed rezone. So the minor general plan amendment is from medium density residential to employment for about 2.49 acres. And the rezone is from CB2, general business, CI1, light industry and warehouse, CB1, local business, and general rural GR to general commercial GC for about 36 acres of this site or this area, and general mixed use, MUG, for about 27 acres of this area here. So the purpose of this request is really to clean up the zoning in this area. The zoning that is currently laid over these properties is a carryover zoning from Pinal County when the city incorporated. Several years ago, the city enacted its own zoning ordinance. However, because of state law, we could not go in and just rezone everyone's property. We have to have their own permission or their request. The city approached the property owners and requested, would you like a city-initiated rezone for this area to clean up this patchwork zoning that we have here that you see that's all over the place, put it under the new city ordinance, under the general commercial and the mixed-use categories to help with facilitating development. Under this code, you have the old zoning code, but then developers will be looking at the old zoning code for certain standards, but then the new zoning code for other standards like landscape, parking, and things like that. By rezoning this whole area under the current city zoning code, they only have to look at one ordinance, find all of the regulations for development, and ease their development ideas. So for the general plan amendment is only for the one parcel. All of the rest of the parcels fall under the employment category, which matches for the mixed use or the general business. Our rezone, again, is about 63 acres in total, and it's, again, going to clean up this patchwork that we have here to help facilitate development. The city has always looked at this area called Maricopa Station as a commercial driver in the future for the city. This is just south of the historic city center. It's a very appropriate place for this kind of commercial development and mixed-use development, and the city is moving forward to clean this up. Both proposals have been vetted through the development review process. We've been over this in other applications, but to remind you, it's been sent out for external technical advisory committee. Planning has reviewed it for the land use compatibility, zoning appropriateness, fire department, building, engineering. Everyone has looked at it. We've had internal development review meetings over the proposed changes, and everything was up to a level to present to this commission, and then after this commission to the council for the proposed rezoning general plan amendment. For the general plan amendment, as you can see on the site, the current general plan amendment, general plan future land use has medium density residential for this parcel. This parcel is located just southwest of the hospital right there. Currently, it's split zoning. It has general rural and a CB2 commercial zoning. To be able to rezone it, we have to put it into a land use category that is compatible with that. So employment, just like all the other properties in the rezone application. This parcel right here is a carryover parcel from the subdivision to the west of it. It was undeveloped. It was meant to be developed as commercial as this out parcel. Under the old zoning, when the general plan was laid over in the future land use map, it put this as a medium density residential because it was part of that subdivision. But as you can see, this parcel is not really part of that subdivision. It's the out parcel. It's external, has no connections to it. It's lined by the back walls of those residences, and it fronts on Maricopa Road. Before the highway overpass, this was the main thoroughfare here. It was always intended to be a commercial property. Here's the current zoning map on the left and the proposed zoning map. And as you can see, the proposal, CB2, general business, CI1, light industry and warehouse, CB1, local business, and general rural to become, SC, shopping center, MUG, mixed use, and GC, general commercial. Clean up this area under this unified zoning that's compatible with each other. There are certain development plans that I've heard of, but I'm not aware of any specific details that people want to come in and develop this area commercially. This will help facilitate that by guiding them through one zoning ordinance with one set of regulations to be followed. The proposed general plan amendment meets the following goals. The objective B133, promote a variety of commercial and retail space to expand opportunities for the small businesses. Goal B14, minimize conflicts between uses. And objective B146, transition all property zoning designations from pre-existing districts to existing zoning districts in a manner that best achieves the goals of the general plan. The proposal is consistent with the general plan, except for that one parcel that we need to amend the general plan for. The proposed zoning districts, given the context of the area and the development goals of the area, are appropriate. And the proposal has been fully vetted by all departments within the city, is at the request of the property owners, and the proposal meets all the requirements outlined in Section 18 of the zoning ordinance. For public outreach, the city sent out neighborhood meeting notification letters on February 24th. Signs were posted all over the area. There are 8 signs altogether that were posted on February 24th. Newspaper legal notice was published February 25th in the Casa Grande Dispatch. A neighborhood meeting was held at the library on March 13th. There were about 15 people in attendance at the meeting with questions about the proposal. There were no opponents, and there generally wasn't specific support, but no one was against it. They just wanted clarification of what was happening. Therefore, staff recommends Planning Commission approve the city-initiated minor general plan amendment, Maricopa Station, case number GPA 23-01, subject to the conditions of approval stated in the staff report and/or as amended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Subsequent to that, staff recommends the Planning Commission approve the city-initiated rezone for Maricopa Station, case number ZON 23-01, subject to the conditions of approval stated in the staff report and/or as amended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I'm happy to answer any questions the Commission may have.
Commissioners, do we have any questions, concerns?
Yeah, It's,
Irving?
first of all, I think it's good. We need to change that. I'm all for it. Just a word of caution in that area you're putting it in with the hospital expansion and the high school there. If you've ever tried to drive in that area at 2:30, you're behind close to 25 school buses. So it could take you an hour to, I guess all I'm saying is I would just suggest that you talk to the school district. There needs to be some planning there because for about an hour and a half at that time, it's just crazy. So adding these things there which need to go, I guess I'm just trying to stay ahead of the curve. So when it comes about, you're talking to the assistant superintendent for operations to figure out during those 2 hours what we can mitigate on both sides. Just a recommendation to look at because I know very well what that area is like for those 2 hours.
Chairman, Commissioner Irving, duly noted, and city staff is very aware of the traffic conditions here. City engineer and public works have been working towards alleviating the traffic congestion in this area. They're reviewing a lot of different options for this.
Commissioners, any other comments or suggestions? The only, the one advantage I see too, and that you did not mention, and that is that we have some Pinell County zoning issues that still hang fire there. And we're going to be resolving those by
That is correct.
what we might be doing here tonight. Okay.
Yes.
If we don't have any other questions or concerns, do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chair, this is.
Oh, I'm
public
sorry,
hearing.
excuse me, I have to open the public, I'm sorry. I have to open the public hearing. Do we have anyone who would like to come up and speak on this topic? Right. Okay, seeing none, we will close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve on GPA 23-01.
Commissioner Irving has made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Singleton has made a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
oh, never mind. It's a public hearing.
Okay.
It's another public hearing.
Item 5.2, ZON 0301. This is also a public hearing. The Planning and Zoning Commission shall discuss and take action on a request for a zoning map amendment on approximately 63 acres, effectively rezoning the site from CB2 General Business, CL1 Light Industry and Warehouse, and CB1 Local Business and GR General Rural zoning districts to the SC Shopping Center, MU-G General Mixed Use, and CG General Commercial zoning districts. The site is generally located at the northeast, southeast, northwest, and southwest of John Wayne Parkway and West Honeycutt Avenue within the City of Maricopa, and this is for discussion and action. And we would like the staff applicant, his presentation, please.
Good evening again, Chairman, members of the Commission. The presentation I have is the same as I just presented. I can go through it again if you would like, or we can move to the recommendation where staff is recommending approval of Zone 23-01.
Okay. Are there any questions or concerns from the Commission? Public hearing. I'm sorry. We're going to open the public hearing. Anybody would like to speak on? No? I'm going to close the public hearing. Commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve 5-209 23-01.
Commissioner Irving has moved that we approve. A second?
Second.
Okay. I think we heard two people at the same time, so very good. We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item, 5.3, TXT 23-01, public hearing, TXT 23-01 text amendment, a request by the City of Maricopa for review and approval or a proposed text amendment to the City of Maricopa zoning code sections 18, 120, 160, medical marijuana, and section 18, 120, 020, list of definitions for discussion and action.
Good evening, Chairman Yocum, members of the commission. We are here for this evening a text amendment that the city is suggesting more specific sections 18-120, qualifying marijuana facilities and listed definitions. I would preface this by saying that as we've talked about text amendments coming through, oftentimes it is necessary to go through and tidy up, clean up, make it better. It's a living document. It's changing all the time, and that's what we have before you this evening. But I think it's appropriate, if we're going to talk about updating the marijuana text amendment, that we talk a little bit about the history of how we got to where we are now. 2003, 2010 Prop 203 was passed by Arizona voters, essentially authorizing the use and sale and cultivation of medical marijuana in the state of Arizona. That same proposition also authorized cities to enact reasonable zoning regulations that limit the use of the land for the registered nonprofit medical marijuana dispensaries, and cultivation also gave us the ability to establish certain criteria for it as well. More importantly, the Arizona Department of Health Services was deemed the agency responsible for the adoption and enforcement of the regulatory system, and that's really important, because I would just note that it is the state of Arizona that regulates this. City has some play in it, but the nuts and bolts and the operational aspects of it is regulated and maintained by the state of Arizona. So with that in mind, the City of Maricopa adopted amendments to its zoning ordinance. I believe that was in 2014, and it essentially conditionally permitted medical marijuana dispensaries and created certain criteria in which we would review in the issuance and approval of that conditional use permit, subject to the separation requirements and the operational limits. Shortly thereafter, November 3rd, 2020, Arizona voters again unanimously, and when I say unanimously, it was about 65%, Prop 207 passed, which furthered the parameters of the marijuana consumption and changed it from just medical marijuana to recreational marijuana. Moreover, the new law regulates the production, sale, and possession, consumption, and recreational marijuana, and establishes, again, the Arizona Department of Health Services as the agency responsible for adopting rules. So when you take that in mind, we now, to kind of simplify that, we changed our zoning ordinance once for a law that was passed in 2010. And so we come around 10 years later, and we've now got, a 10-year-old ordinance, and they've established recreational marijuana as a permitted sale as well. So again, we need to update our ordinance and move from there. I'm not going to read these to you all word for word, so I'm just going to kind of summarize and kind of put them in a order here. But essentially what we're doing is, with the amendment this evening, is we're going to remove the term medical and replace it with qualifying. Section 12160C.1, what we've done is we've clarified the separation requirements. If you'd looked at it in the old code, it was in paragraph form. We've essentially taken that information, put it into a table, and made it much easier to read. We've established odor control requirements for a qualified dispensary, or facility, I should say, along with consumption requirements and the requirement to establish a security plan that is approved by the City of Maricopa Police Station. And then finally, what we've done is we've defined the dual license. We've defined the medical marijuana still exists, but there's now a second license that one could have with respect to recreational marijuana that now combines it into two. So you could have, it'll be very common to have the recreational and the medical marijuana license at the same time. Important clarification there. The only other thing that we had actually changed in the code that we're presenting to you this evening is we increased the size of, back in 2010, it was 3,000 square feet. We've increased that to 5,000 square feet. So again, I took a snippet of the table so we could just look at it and you get a clear understanding of just how much clearer it is and easier to read. I think there's an overall improvement to the to the code itself. With respect to public outreach, public comment posting went out on March 8th, 2023. Public hearing posting on March 9th. We have the Planning Commission meeting this evening. We're scheduled for April 4th for the City Council meeting. And I would just point out that as of this evening, putting together this presentation, there has been no correspondence received by staff, either in favor or in opposition of the text amendment before you this evening. Therefore, staff recommends Planning Commission approve the text amendment before you this evening as recommended in the staff report, and or as amended by Planning Commission this evening. Chairman Yocum, that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions that might come.
Commissioners, any questions? Yes. Commissioner Singleton? Public hearing? I don't think. Public hearing?
Yep.
Let's open the public hearing. Anybody want to come forward and speak? Seeing and hearing nobody, we will close the public hearing. Now, questions, concerns? Yes.
Hey, the only comments I wanted to make.
Sorry, Commissioner Juarez, go ahead.
Right, the only comments I wanted to make is first to commend you on a pretty good document, well lined up. And when I looked at the document, because I've had experience working with compliance documents before, I look for the document's going to tell me a story, kind of that what your intent is, how are you going to maintain compliance, or who you're going to force to maintain compliance, how you follow up with them. I look for consistency in the document as far as terms you're using, how you use those terms, how those terms are identified. And those are just some of the small things that I found. Then I look further at some of the sections where the bold typing, and then I realized earlier by going back in the document that the bold typing was there specifically to identify these changes that were made. So.
Okay.
One other thing is trying to understand this document, what the city is responsible for, and looking for defining the rulemaking, who's given the task to perform, and then who's given the task to comply with, and then who does the follow-up compliance checking with all this, and is there any follow-up reporting back, like to the state? Because what I didn't want to see with my experience with documents, for the city to take on any responsibilities or ownership that didn't really fall in the court of the city. So one of the things I look for is when we're outlining these requirements is that if it's mandated by the state, then state so. So that way there's no misunderstanding when somebody comes to us and says, well, you told us this. And actually, it's very clear in the document, it says this is mandated by the state of Arizona, and you're forced to comply with this, not the city. Or if there's a requirement from the state of Arizona for the city to follow up and do follow-up inspections, checking of documents of the owners, then that needs to be specifically line itemed in there. But overall, I think it's a very good document, and I think the use of maybe a Word document next time versus the PDF would make it a lot easier, because I noticed a lot of the formatting got skewed, and what was a section turned into a subsection, and then some of the, like for example, I think it was H turned into I, and it was just all over the place.
Should
But,
follow its way
yeah.
down, and it didn't.
but good job.
Thank you. Now, I thought there was kind of a question in there as well, Commissioner, with respect to who's actually responsible for follow-up and.
Right.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure I answered that. Chairman Yocum, Commissioner Juarez, hey, thank you very much for your comments. I think it's a really good question what you ask. And the answer to that is this is strictly mandated by the state. The state licenses it, the state inspects it. They completely regulate it. We set the distance requirements, the conditional use permit requirement. And essentially with respect to the building when it's built, meeting building codes, fire codes, public safety requirements, that's where the city responsibility ends. I know it's well regulated. I've had some experience with these in the past, and the state of Arizona is spot on with it, and the operators themselves, they're under a great, I don't want to say a great deal of pressure, but they understand the sense of urgency in running these things to the T. Because should they lose that license, they don't get it back. So I hope that clarifies. We're well aware of the entire process. We're monitoring it throughout the process. Do we know the intricacies of how the odor control system works? No, sir, we don't. We'll see it in a mechanical electric plant. And the building guys do, but as far as those details of inspection along the way are all handled through the state.
Yeah, that's a very good comment right there, because I think that's a question I wanted to bring up to you is regarding responsibilities, because we don't want to get into areas and we make decisions
Right.
that be contrary to what the actual ruling is. So, thank you once again.
I'd like to thank Commissioner Juarez for his insightful comments, and it's going to be interesting to see what the city's response is.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yeah, thank you very much. I seen a flash where you said the distance is 500 feet, okay? How does that compare for your applications for a liquor license? How many feet does a liquor license have to be from my principal church or other? Is it 100 feet?
Chairman Yocum, Commissioner Hughes, that's a really good question, and I saw my colleague Derek running for the. So if we can come back to that question, I'll be able to give you exact distances.
And I have a reason for going here, and that is 500 feet. First of all, is it reasonable? How much land is available within those parameters of other establishments within our city?
Chairman Yocum, that's okay, thank you very much. An instance where technology actually works. How about that? Chairman Yocum, Commissioner Hughes, just to go back and I'm going to circle back and then I'm going to.
Sure.
1,500 feet from elementary and secondary education facilities, religious facilities, cultural facilities, or public parks and recreational facilities. 500 feet from restricted personal services, off-track betting established, and adult-oriented businesses. 1,000 feet from any other legally established business with packaged alcohol and beverage sales. So 1,000 feet. Yes.
Wow, that's pretty restrictive, that's all I'm going to say. That's in other communities, I know it's 100 feet between some of those locations. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Singleton?
Yeah. This is an excellent example of just showing like how I guess it is a breathing document that we can come back and revise. I mentioned this to you prior to the meeting, just so it doesn't get finalized. There are two section 18.120.160.h's
Yes.
when going through it. So just wanted to call that out to make sure that that doesn't get finalized. It should go up to L if everything was finalized. But yeah, that's the only thing I wanted to point out.
Thank you.
Okay. Vice Chair Robertson?
I have a few questions and a comment. I guess I'll just take them one at a time, Rick. It's my understanding from what I can derive from the staff report and the presentation that conditional use permits that is now required goes away.
Chairman Yocum, Commissioner Robertson, that is not correct.
Okay?
Conditional use permit is still required based on the criteria that is outlined in this revised text amendment.
The dual license is confusing to me in the document. I can't tell whether it's required or not required. In the previous ordinance said you couldn't be here unless you had both.
Right.
What's the position this new document takes? Can it be recreational or medical or both or none of the above?
Chairman, Commissioner, you're absolutely right on that. It can be either or both.
Or both, okay?
I will just point out that in the discussions that we've had, the chances of not seeing a dual license are pretty slim.
Okay, good, that answers it. On the distances, I'm very concerned about the 500 feet for a school. We give 1,500 feet from other qualifying. We give 500 feet for daycare, 500 feet for all the rest. So I'm concerned that 500 feet for a school is simply not enough. So I would like to see that increased to an appropriate level, maybe 1,000, maybe even 1,500. And then in section C, it talks about if the uses are within the separation requirement, but a man-made natural barrier separates, an exemption could be granted. So I could have two establishments next to each other as long as I have a brick wall between the two and the 1,500 feet goes away. What does that man-made or natural barrier really mean?
Chairman, Commissioner, really good question. And let me just go back to the separation on the school. I just would like to point out that there is only one distance requirement that the state of Arizona identifies. Schools, 500 feet. So it meets the minimum requirement outlined by and so that doesn't mean it's right or wrong. I just am pointing out for fact and for discussion that it meets the only separation requirement that the state requires.
Okay, before we move on past that, you said the state minimum. Does that mean we have discretion to go more than the state minimum of 500?
Chairman Yocum, Commissioner Robertson, absolutely, it does.
Okay, so
it's a minimum requirement.
My position stands then that 500 feet is too close to a school. Go ahead, you were going to continue with something else?
Yes, the second part of that question, when we're talking man-made or natural environments, we're talking about, sir, a wash, a freeway, something that separates circulation back and forth. You can't just walk across the street to it. For example, a good example of it might be the east-west corridor that's coming in. We're expecting commercial on both sides of that. As it develops over the years, there could be an instance where you had one on one side, one on the other side. But again, I stress that is at the discretion of the zoning administrator, and if it doesn't make sense, we will always err on the side of good judgment.
Okay, I would then recommend that discussion part of the proposed change be a little bit more specific.
Okay.
And I had the same item highlighted in the package I have, and I had basically the same questions that the vice chair did. Any other comments or questions?
I have one more.
Okay, Commissioner Juarez?
Section K, abandonment, and I think we spoke about this earlier today. I looked at the definition of abandonment, and it said within 12 months. But for me, I know specifically, is this 12 consecutive months? Or is this 12 months over a 2-3 year period? Criteria we're using there. Somebody just abandons the facility, doesn't use it. When do we decide it becomes abandoned? So that's something that needs to be made pretty clear. The other one is enclosed lock facility. Working in a compliance environment, secured facilities were the 6-wall system. And with that enclosed with the 4 walls, ceiling, and avoid penetration of any type for high security equipment. I'm not sure if we want to get that deep or if that's something that the state has already looked at and already defined criteria. And so I think that's important for us to understand. If we don't have to enforce that, but the state does, then I think we're good. And this goes specifically for their storage of their marijuana products or any of their products that they have to dispose of, how they bag it, how they tag it, how they catalog it, how they report it, and how do they go ahead and report any non-compliance activities. But those are just the last 2 items I had.
Right. Chairman, Commissioner, were those statements or were those questions? I can tell you that on the 12-month abandonment, it's 12 consecutive months. You know, the state is monitoring that, and at any time it goes silent, excuse me, that would be the trigger. So it would be consecutive months, not fragmented by any means.
Because my experience has been also out of compliance is sometimes auditors use calendar year,
right,
or they use annual.
A fiscal year.
And that's 2 different things.
Right. I don't know which one whether they look at it from a fiscal standpoint or a calendar standpoint, but I do then know they look at it 12 months in advance. With respect to storage and discarding of rubbish, and again, it's Arizona State is the one that's regulating. They're the ones that are monitoring it. There are very prescribed methods of discarding their waste, and the state monitors that very closely. We, in our ordinance, have indicated clearly how you can't, but it's not our position to come in and tell them how they can. The state takes care of that for us.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I have one question, and that is a hypothetical question. If a city or Maricopa, the city of Maricopa, puts in so many restrictions on a certain zoning, it makes it prohibitive that nobody can do it, will you be challenged in court?
Yeah, Chairman Yocum, Commissioner Hughes, excellent point. You have to be very, very careful. I'm certainly no attorney, but we talk about exclusionary zoning all the time.
Yes, sir.
And we have to be fair. We have to have reasonable expectations. We have to have reasonable requirements, because the reality of it is, with separation, we could separate every use out. But it opens you, and I would defer to Nicholas sitting over there. It certainly opens you up to certain liability and makes you vulnerable for, litigation.
Correct. Thank you.
Any other discussion or items?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve with a stipulation that the distance to schools be a minimum of 1,000 feet,
1,000?
maximum of 1,500 at the discretion.
So you're saying 1,000 to 1,500?
Minimum of 1,000.
Okay.
The motion. I would not support changing the distances at all. Just my thought. So if the motion is, if it's a recommendation, I have no problem with it, but you use the word stipulation. So if it's a recommendation from an individual member, that's fine. But I do not support it being a recommendation from us as a group.
Let's address the motion as made and see if we get a second.
Well, so, and Nick, correct me if I'm, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, so P&Z is a recommending body, so any stipulations that would be, or any final changes would have to be approved by council. If the motion is to recommend that the 500 feet be extended to 1,000, you can make that recommendation to them. Council will make the ultimate decision whether or not they make that change.
Fine.
With a second or not?
So it's my understanding we have a motion that we approve, but we do have a stipulation
Recommendation.
Recommendation.
rather that we keep the facilities 1,000 to 1,500 feet away from schools.
So-
1,000 specifically.
1,000 specifically.
Chairman, Commissioners, essentially, you have a motion on the table. All right? You're either going to support that recommendation or not.
Well, I'm
based
looking
on the
for
vote.
I'm looking
You
for
know.
a second.
If that doesn't pass, then you can come back with a second motion and vote on that as well.
If I don't get a second, then it
Okay.
doesn't pass. We have a second. Okay, I'd like to entertain another motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve TXT 23-01.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Irving that we approve as presented. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, okay, by Councilman Juarez. Any further discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
No.
Okay, so we have,
Do a roll call.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd
we have
recommend
a roll call, please.
Yeah, I would do a roll call.
Commissioner Juarez,
Aye.
Commissioner Singleton,
Aye.
Commissioner Robertson,
Nay.
Commissioner Yocum,
No? Nay?
Commissioner Irving,
Aye.
Commissioner LaFolle, Commissioner Hughes,
No.
I believe the vote was 4-2, no?
No, it was three.
Commissioner
3-3?
Chair,
Which means the motion fails,
yeah,
Motion fails.
which means.
Well, what it means is,
Well, the motion to pass failed.
right, so
So-
it will be forward on with no recommendation.
No, it'll be forwarded on that we did not pass it.
again, with P&Z being a recommending body, you can have further discussion. There can be another motion to reconsider. You can further discussion, but if not, it can be placed on the city council agenda with no recommendation.
Yeah.
Are we going to entertain any further discussion on
Yeah,
TXT 23-01?
I think the problem I have is that I have no problem if there's a way for individual people to say what they want to recommend. But clearly, I would think our job is to support it, because we all support it. There is an issue about a recommendation. So if there's a way, we can pass it and just simply note individual opposition to the distance. Yeah, I ain't a problem with that.
We can, excuse me, can we pass the motion as you presented it with
is
an
what I did.
amendment saying that this committee recommends to the city council that they consider changing the parameters to 1,500 feet?
That vote that's what we just did it, and it was a tie vote.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hughes, I think you can definitely direct staff that when they present this to council, that there was opposition and the main concern was the distance requirements for schools. I think you can direct staff to bring that up at the council meeting, at the council public hearing as well.
So how are we going to word the motion?
I think it would just be, right now, I think staff has the direction because of the discussion. It's right now whether or not you're going to entertain a motion to, for a recommendation of approval on this item.
Okay, let's try again. Do we have a motion to approve,
Yeah, I would make the same motion I had before.
and that's TXT 23-01?
Right.
Motion is made to approve. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, one item. Can we justify requiring the 1,000 feet?
Again, it's a recommendation by individual members. I don't think they have to justify it. If that's what they want to recommend, I think, again, we would tell staff that we would like, members would like it. That's all. So they have a right to recommend what they want without going into,
With all due respect, Commissioner Irvin, it is a personal recommendation coming from me.
Right.
But if my motion is supported, then it is a recommendation of the body, not me.
That's why I didn't second or vote for it.
So it's a moot point.
I guess like the justification part was, I believe you said that for liquor it was 1,000 feet from schools, if I remember correctly. So I think that's where that justification would be, is why Commissioner Robertson is trying to justify that.
Okay, again, TXT 23-01, motion has been made that we approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
Vote is 5-1. Motion carries.
I think that's fine. That's good.
That works.
Okay. Item 6, reports from commission and/or staff.
I'll tell you, since I'm here, I'm just going to stay here. How does that? Okay. So, Chairman, Commissioners, I'm happy to say that we've been talking about the new DRP process. We have the first two items for an easy to say sometimes, informational aspect coming to you on April 10th. The good news is there are two city projects, the municipal court building that sits right behind us and the new city park that's going in. They're great projects. The timing of them lines up perfectly, and we're all excited about bringing that to you on the 10th. We also have new DRPs. We've got a pre-application meeting tomorrow at 1 o'clock. That will be the first applicant other than the city-driven coming through, and we expect to see that in the first meeting in May. So we're working on a few items to, I think, engage the conversation with that. And we've got other things coming that are real nice. I talked to the Public Works Director this afternoon. We're going to be coming to you shortly with a CIP update, what's going on in the city. I would also like to clear up one point that was asked at our last meeting, which was about being the Transit Advisory Committee. And I just want to confirm that it is 4 times a year, once a quarter. We'll have to open a meeting and take care of that business as well. Other than that, I don't have anything else to add to that. Just a good discussion tonight. I appreciate it. And as always, we're always here to help. We're just a phone call away. So, Chairman, thank you. Commissioners, thank you. And that's all I have, sir.
I'm going to enjoy working with a very interesting and involved commission. I really am. I appreciate everybody's efforts tonight. I think it was very refreshing. I guess we're going to move to adjourn. So moved? So moved.